Hi, my name's Graham. I am one of the 3D artists working at an undisclosed game studio. Not allowed to say much about it, but this is a video for my team to show my workflow a little bit and how I um, paint stylized textures and stuff like that for some of the weapons. Um, I've been given permission to share this with people outside of the team, as long as I don't show anything with the game. All right, so I'm going to be talking about my workflow. This is completely unscripted. This is just me going from the very beginning to the very end. I may ramble a little bit as because this is not a scripted video. So if you like it and you learn something from it, I hope that I succeeded, right? So first thing is I'll talk a little bit about I just modeled the weapon and then it's completely unwrapped as you can tell, and I've rendered out an ambient occlusion map inside of Substance Painter. I imported that as a 4K texture, and it's going to be resized down to 2K. That's the image resolution for this is 2K. And I've gone in and I've created a color palette for this. Anyone who's ever done any kind of like 2D sprite art knows working with like color palettes like this. It's kind of the similar. It's kind of similar to that with how I do this. I create a mid-tone pass. So you got mid-tone. If you're watching where my cursor is, you got shading, and then you got like a highlight. So you got wood, which is your mid-tone. You got your shading, and you got your highlight, etc. So I've kind of gone in and I've created layers. I've created folders, and then I put layers in them, and then I've isolated the colors on it so I could skip all the busy work, and now I can get into painting now. So we're going to be starting with metal, and whenever I am doing metal, or when I'm painting anything, but specifically metal for this, I normally go with like a about 40 to 45 opacity. That's going to get very strong brush strokes, kind of giving that like chiselly metallic look. I like to go with, I'm using 3D Coat, by the way. 3D Coat 2025 11. Not scripted. I should have mentioned that earlier, but you can see at the top it's 3D Coat 2025.11. When I'm doing metals, usually I will go with a very strong brush right here. This is not really the brush. These are your brushes right here. It's a little confusing. I'll go with like this like chisely looking brush. Now these are all stock that come with 3D Coat, and then I go with like this right here. Now these have to do with like how your brush is drawing on it. Um, yeah, so I'll go with this, and then when I do like wood, I might go with like this right here, where I think this has to do with like your pin pressure and stuff like that. But I this is just what I do. Um, all right, so paint. I've got a color layer, and this is just what I named as color. So this is just that right there, and I'm going to be painting on there. All right, so the first thing I do is I have these two colors selected, so you can press X on your keyboard. I believe that might be correct because I've changed a lot of my keys. I don't know what the default is, but I've changed it to X. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start going in with some nice hard strokes like this. Like this. It's important to not get too hung up on the result too early on. That's like probably the most important thing as an artist, to not get hung up too early on what it looks like. Right now, we are just working on a very simple textury looking pass. You want that textured look, the hand painted paintery look. That's what I'm trying to say. So that's what I'm doing. And eventually, once I have like this, I'm going to kind of go and hold on. It always has steady stroke on, and I can always tell with steady stroke it's like that. I really, really do not like steady stroke when it comes to just being on by default. I'll turn it on when I want it on, but it always just turns itself on every single time you load the software up. All right. So I'm going with a darker color first instead of going with a highlight, because this is going to generate that darker color metal, and then I can go in with highlights later. So I don't go mid-tone and highlight, I go mid-tone and darker color, and then I mix the two together, and that'll get you your textured look. Oh, okay. Hold on. I realized something. We're going to press G, go fill with eraser, and then go into the texture. We're going to just erase all that. And I need to lock my transparency here. That way I'm only painting on this. Right. Sorry about that. All right. We're going to go in and start trying to get like a nice chiselly look. And the more brush stroke that you throw in there, the more it will have like a chiseled look. And if your color's not 100% right, at the very end, you can create a new layer, put the color that you want on that layer, just a solid color, and then you can set the layer to color. I'll show you really quickly what I'm talking about. So let's say I want this to be like, and do fill with color. Let's say I want this. I could select this to be color like that. And then that'll, or maybe instead of red, maybe I want it to be more like silver. Image like this. Let's go for a more silver look like that. So you can do whatever color you want. All right, let's go back here and be all right. Let's turn off the ambient occlusion map so I'm not sampling colors from the ambient occlusion shadows. We can dot some in here like this, and then paint it out like so. This is just your painterly pass. All right, I'm gonna start kind of massaging the colors in. What I did was I sampled right here. You can see I'm picking color, and I changed the I don't remember what the default buttons for these were because I changed it to match like Photoshop. I like to try and have the hotkeys somewhat similar between Photoshop and all the other softwares I use. So I changed this to I for eyedropper, and now B for brush. I'm kind of going in like so, and I'm just kind of massaging the colors in like so. Now we're getting that like painterly look that we're going for. All right, this is just like our very first pass. This is going to kind of get that whole look that we're going for. So under here, we're gonna go in a little bit like so. Get some like that shading in there. I will be doing proper like shading in a little bit. All right. Kind of getting that metallic look a little bit. The more brushstroke we throw in, the more metallic-y it'll start looking. All right. We are then going to start throwing in some basic shading and highlights in here. Let me just get that. Some of these sides, the edges, hard to see with the meshes in front of it. So W will turn your grid on and off so you can kind of see where you're going. By the way, I didn't mention this. This is what it looks like by default. You can see all the brush strokes. I press 2. 2 will turn you in unlit mode because you are basically just painting at this point. You want it to be in unlit mode for painting. All right, so we're going to create a new layer. This will be called, we'll call this highlight because this will be your basic pass for highlight. So like right here, I'm trying to follow that edge right there. Like so. All right. And then I think actually, I'm going to, yeah, we're going to go like, we're going to kind of turn this down a little bit. And then we're going to start painting in more color right here. And we'll turn this on to linear dodge, like so. Because I do want that like textured look in there, like so. All right, we'll do the same back over here. I'll have to go in and erase some parts of this. That's fine. Now, if you look at where the lighting is, this is part of like hand painting. It's ascertaining where your light source. If the light is going to be coming from above, then naturally this would have more light than say down here because the light is hitting like that. And that's part of hand painting, is understanding where your lighting is going to hit. So if this back here is not going to be next to the light, it would probably be a little bit darker. So let's kind of go in like that. And there would be even less light at this angle because it's kind of facing down, right? But like over here is a little bit more straight, so there would be some light like right there. So I'm going to go in with the eraser now and just kind of go through and erase some of that. And then the same right there. Erase that. We'll do the same right here. I will be getting to that eventually. In fact, I might do it on this layer. Okay, that's part of the other layer. All right. All right, so I want to get these like cracks and dents. Okay, let's see. So we're going to do a quick pass with this really quick. Go like this. Now we need this to be a little bit brighter. So I'm going to do something here. So this brush right here is not strong enough. It needs to be like that and like this. And then kind of go in and fix that. Go like that. And we are about to paint that right there. I'm going to do the same right here. Paint that. And I'll go in with a highlight in a minute. I want to try and see if I can fix this right here. It's kind of getting it. All right. So right now we're just focusing on highlights. We will eventually go in with like a shading pass, like under here. Alternatively, we can paint directly like right here. Let's find where that is. It looks like it's like right here. So I could just go in, paint straight on the 2D texture itself, like so. It's pretty cool. Now, I imagine this light, the light source, it would be much lighter on the tip here as the lighting is hitting this piece right here, and it would cast a shadow. So it would be brighter right here, darker down here, right? So we're going to go in with the eraser. The eraser is at 44 opacity. That is fine with me. We're going to start erasing. Well, actually, that's eraser this is the eraser. So we'll turn it down to about 29. Like so. Like so. You kind of get like a nice like chiselly look right there. All right, that'll do just fine. Let's go back in, fix that. All right, we're gonna do these backsides now. Gotta find where that's at. I think it's right here. And I think this is it right here. So we'll just go in, throw in some color, and then we'll erase like we did. Kind of get a chiselly look in there, right? Erase a little bit more. And then chisel in, a little bit more erase. And you can see on the left how it's looking, and I'm liking that. Kind of just a little bit more chiselly look. And now we'll start bringing that highlight in slightly, like so. Like that. And tap it a little bit. You can get kind of a worn chisel look. And then I would say just drop the opacity down a little bit. All right. That'll do just fine. All right. We have this right here to do. And I think this is going to just go like... So here's a fun fact about painting in 3D, at least in 3D Code. If I go like this, it's going to paint across like that, right? It paints right up there. However, though, if I change the angle, now watch. See, it didn't paint up there that time because I changed my angle. That makes it really nice for these kind of tight corners. So I'll kind of go in and do another pass like that. And then I'll just go in and turn my eraser up to 100 and just erase. Try and get that line nice and tight in there. And there's that. And it's on the other side too, since I mirrored this mesh, so I don't have to do quite as much texturing. All right, the piece is slowly coming together. So I can see with ambient occlusion, I'm going to have to do this for a few other places. So we'll turn off ambient occlusion, turn on the wireframe. We'll kind of go in and go back to the highlight. And the bracket keys will lower and resize it. So I'm just keeping my left hand over my keyboard for the hotkeys and painting with my right hand. So we are going to just try and get in here best we can, like so. Erase that. We'll have to go back and paint, but that is okay with me. So we'll go like this, kind of go in and just paint in like so. And I imagine I'm going to do this for up here as well, like so, because the light would be hitting right here, right? And then above would be shading. I don't know if you guys can hear my music. I've disabled music on the video so I don't get copyright striked, but I'm playing some like Halo music. All right, so let's go in, kind of erase right there, erase there, and right here, like so. And then press B. Go in and fix now a little bit. Fix here as well. And eventually I'm going to be going in with a new layer and I'll do another touch-up pass for some of these highlights. It's looking quite nice. All right. Right, like that. Are there any other areas? I can see there being light right here, so we're gonna go in there. Now, if I remember right, that is not attached to this. This right here is this open area right here. So I'm going to be painting, let's see, it's going to be either this or it's going to be that one. One of these is the underside. And it looks like this is going to be where I'm painting. So I'll just paint right on this. Just like so. I think my favorite part of painting is probably the detailing phase, where you can go in and throw some scratches and dents in. I really enjoy that. Let's bring our brush up a little bit, like so. All right. So one thing is this color right here, because of the way the lighting is hit, this would also have a little bit of a highlight here, because they would not just be the same color all across. It's just very bland. Even if I were to throw ambient occlusion on, I do want to throw some highlight in there. So we're going to do that. So we will probably just bring this down slightly, like so. And just kind of go in and just do very subtle color update right here, some highlights. Doesn't have to be big or anything, like so. All right, and then just kind of go in and erase some of the extra overfill. And there's that. And I think I will do the same right here. See, this is on the same kind of diagonal surface as this is. So I'll go in and do the same thing right here. And probably for that matter, over here. You didn't see what I did, but I pressed F right here. And that will move your pivot point so you can zoom in and do stuff like that. So that's focus, I guess. I guess that's what F is for focus. So you're focusing your pivot there. So we'll just go in and do a quick pass right here. All right. We'll do the same thing right here. All right. So you can see it's starting to kind of take shape slowly but surely. But now I think I want to add a shading pass, because that is what we're missing. So I'm going to go in and shading, and we're going to go ahead and save with Control S. And by the way, this is I'm going to call it a pro tip, but this is a preference tip for me. I would go into the settings and I would get rid of the hotkey of Control X. That force closes, for some stupid reason, it force closes 3D Code. That is absolutely obnoxious. You'll just lose all your content. Let's say you're trying to hit Control Z and you're so focused, you're looking at your screen and you just have your hand hovering over it, and you're trying to undo something you did and you press Control X, you just force close the whole program. Unbind that. Try and find that for yourself. I've unbound that as a obnoxious hotkey, but yeah. All right, so we're going to go in now and we're going to start painting in kind of like these under areas. So let's see. By the way, you see I'm pressing W and it's showing the wireframe on the mesh, but not doing it right here in the texture editor. There's a button here. You can press that and it will show you kind of your wireframe, which is incredibly helpful. So I actually am going to use that in Paint right in here. Right clicking will zoom you in and out as long as you're not touching the mesh itself, the UV islands. And we're going to turn this opacity up to about 40. I usually fluctuate between like 40 and 45 or so. All right. And remember, like last time, I'm just going to go in and erase. Right now, I'm just trying to get a nice straight edge juxtaposed to that highlight I did below it. And let's go ahead and erase now. Before we do that, you can see where I'm painting. And now you just watch on the left there and you'll see what's happening. All right, that looks good so far. If you wanted to use steady stroke here, you could get you a nice, very straight edge. So I can't really, you can see on the left over here, some of these are not very sharp. They kind of look rounded. You can't really tell with these things. So I'm just going to turn that off. Kind of go in like so. Oh, it's just in the painting itself. That's probably honestly okay, I guess. That's probably fine with me. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to just press G and I'm just going to fill right here. Oh, that's the wrong one, right here. We'll just fill in there and we're going to set to multiply like this, and then we're just going to drop that multiply layer probably about down to like 33%. All right, we need to find this right here. So let's go on up, go to B. All right. Just do some quick painting. All right, that looks good. We'll do the bolts later, like the bolts that are on this. We'll do that a little bit later. So let's get in and let's kind of do some of this right here. There's definitely pros and cons to painting on the mesh or painting on the texture. This is a good example right here of where painting on the mesh would be really nice. So I can kind of go in like this and just paint in like so. Like that. I'm not worried too much about like not hitting right here. Like I think that's fine because it'll be seen from like this, and that micro detail right there will not be seen from over here probably. All right. Just go in here like so, and then think we have at least one more. I think it looks like it's like right here. And I don't know where that's at on the mesh, but I know that this is going to receive shading. Like so. All right, we are about to enter the fun point of this. Now, if you look closely, though, this does look pretty solid. We can kind of come in a little bit and add another. We're going to do various highlight passes, especially like right here being like the same color as like right here. This naturally would have more light because it's more of a flat surface. More this, where this is kind of like the light would bounce a little bit down here. So this is a flat surface. This would be probably brighter color. So we'll go in and do that really quick. So we'll do highlight 2, like so. We'll do a linear dodge and it's at 40% opacity. So that's very strong, but metal can have a nice strong look to it. We're going to come in and erase some of this and turn that opacity on the layer down. Let's kind of go in like that. Just get some like nice angles in there. It won't look as bright in just a second when I turn that down like so. All right. All right, and then we'll do like right here as well. No, I don't know if that needs it because it's kind of behind. I think that might be fine, but I can tell you that these are going to receive it just because they're the same color right here as it is there. Okay, we need to turn our brush down. All right. I think that looks good. All right, we'll get in and just tone these up a little bit. In fact, I think that for this, I will kind of get in here like so. And because this layer is set to about 60% color dodge, it's still retaining that textury look, which is what we're going for. We're going to get in now, do it over here as well. All right, and then we'll clean it up. All right, it's getting there. It's looking good. All right, I shall be right back.